Hello everyone, today I'm going to run some project in Amazon SageMaker in order to build a training model and use this model by API through building a Lambda function. I don't know if you already work with Amazon SageMaker or not. It's another feature of AWS that has a built-in notebook inside the EC2. So if you are planning to work with some big data or doing some complicated computation or something that needs a lot of time and also needs a lot of money, this is a very good approach that can make the computation very faster and also simpler and less cost. In order to work with Amazon SageMaker, we first need to create a notebook instances in here. When you add for creating the notebook, you can just type a name for the notebook, and then here you can define your instance type based on the complexity of your analysis, and also based on the cost of different machine. You can define what machine is best works for you. And also here you can define the other parameters as like VPC, IAM role, and others. So since I've already created my notebook, I just going to work on with that, but this is the process of creating a notebook instances. So after you create a notebook, you can define different files and run your project. And in here, I am trying to work with breast cancer dataset. In order to do that, first I need to import. I am working with Python kernel in my Jupyter notebook, and in order to do that, first I need to import some important libraries from Python, such as OS, Boto3, SageMaker, and so on, as you can see. Then I get the URL of my dataset that I am trying to work with, and in this project I am working with a breast cancer dataset from a UCI website. After I got my data, I can just read it as a CSV file using pandas library, and here you can see the different feature of my data, and the data is showing the different information from the tumor, such as clump thickness, uniformity of cell size, and so on, and the output showing the class of the tumor, which going to be like binary output, whether is it malignant or benign, which is here is defined by 2 or 4, and 2 means benign and 4 means malignant. So in order to work with this data as a prediction model, we have to create some training and testing data. For example, I select 60% of my data as a training and the rest as testing. Also, we have to define the label of data, which in here is the class for both training and testing. And in order to be able to SageMaker, we have to convert our Python format data frame format of our data into the SageMaker format. So here is the function that we are using to make this conversion. Also, after we convert data into the SageMaker format, here we can create our role for this data. What type of job we are going to do that. We are defining our linear training program, which is define the linear job with the number of, the instance type that we are trying to use, and also here we showing the path that we are going to save our training input data, which after you have to create the S3 bucket first, and then create this path for the saving your data. Also, we have to show the output data configuration, which is here, as you can see, showing the different path of the data. Here also show the more specification of our model, which is binary classification. Here showing the number of feature dimension, which is the data we are going to build a prediction model, and the number of replication that we have to replicate our model to get the result. And after we build our model, we also need to create a host. That this host is kind of container that just give us an endpoint, that we use this endpoint to be able to build our Lambda function and call it using API. So here, after we create, this is going to be the name of our endpoint, and after we create this host, we will receive this endpoint. And using this endpoint will help us to do the prediction by using the rest of the data. So here we run the testing model using the test prediction. And here we also calculate the error of our data, and here also showing us the accuracy of our prediction model, which is 98.2%, which is very good result. And this is also a view of our testing data. So after we got the endpoint, we need to build a Lambda function which could allow us to invoke our endpoint from Amazon SageMaker and use this endpoint by API. So after we receive the endpoint from Amazon SageMaker, we need to call this endpoint by API. To do so, we have to create a Lambda function that kind of make this connection available between SageMaker and API. So to create a Lambda function, we need to find the Lambda in AWS main menu, and then we add create function. Here we have to select the name, for example, breast cancer test, and here we need to define the runtime in kernel that you want to run it, and here, because we want to add another availability to the we want to add another policy to IAM, so we have to create a custom rule, because we want to make it available to invoke a new endpoint from the SageMaker. So we have to make some amendment here. For example, you have to add this line to the policy, as you can see here, that shows the effect means allow action SageMaker invoke endpoint. Then we click on the allow page, and then after we select that, the Lambda basic function, we can create our function. So after we create our Lambda function in here, we have to find the function of our model in the function part. Again, we have to copy paste the code from here. Sorry. Okay. We have to put it here. And also for here, for the environment variable, we have to create our endpoint as a name, as a key, and also the value of our endpoint. That in here, I will just see the key. I will define the name of the here. So after I create them, I put the function name and everything. I can just create my Lambda function, and after I create my function, I just need to create the API To do so, I will just go to the APIs in AWS, and then I create for the API. I would say like I don't know, cancer test as the API name, or like prediction model. Then I create my API, and here after I create the name, I need to create the resource. For my resource is cancer, sorry, cancer, which should be the same name. Then I create my resource. Then I add the create method, and in here I added post. So after I add post here, I have to put the name of my Lambda function, which I have it here as breast cancer test. So I would add the name of my Lambda function as breast cancer test, and I save it as my new API. So then I have to also I need to deploy my API, like I put it as final stage, and stage name means final, for example, and I create my things. So this is the URL of my API that I will explain to you how I can access to the result of this page. But here I just wanted to show you how to test my result. I have to just add the name of the some code. For example, here I can show you the sample test. Just paste it as a sample record of the data, and we want to see how this is going to be work on our model. And as you can see here, it's give me the result which is benign. It means that the having these parameters of the tumor show us that the cancer is benign. After we try this example using this data, we can also try to use a URL into the other like command window to be sure that we will get the our data is going to work. So here we just need to copy the URL and then add the request command, and here this is the sample data that we just put it as an input, and here we also need to remove the URL address from the previous API that I worked with. And then okay, this is the address, and also this is the name of my API. So when I run this, I just need to see the content, and here you can see for this data, which is the same here. I show you the different example. We have the malignant tumor, which is M, and here if you go to the resources as a post and try to like copy paste the same data as here, so when you run that, you will get the same result. So I hope this tutorial would help you to go through step by step and create your own API and Lambda function, and using some of the build model from SageMaker and to test your result. So thank you so much for the listening.